You don't think that's supposed to be?
Don't worry, we were talking about you.
I'm talking about a lot.
We thought you were so right. You just proved your point, man.
Good evening and welcome to the Summers County Board of Education regular meeting. It is July the 9th, 2020. It is 6 p.m. Chair calls the meeting to order. Item 1, roll call. Let the minutes reflect that all 5 elected members of the Public Instruction Summers County Board of Education are present in this building. Item 2, I'd like to ask Mr. Brogan if he would please an invitation pledge for the
Our Father in heaven, we just want to thank you for giving us another day, blessings you bestowed on us. Father, we just want to thank you for each part of the Summers County school system as a whole, takes each call to make the machine turn. We just thank you for each one. Father, we just pray that you go with us and go through this agenda, make the decisions, just make the best decision for the county system as a whole. Pray these things in Jesus' name. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 is approval of agenda with adjustments. Anyone have any adjustments they'd like to make to the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda 3.
I'll second. There's a motion on the floor with Mr. Brogan, second by Mr. Angel, that this board approve the agenda as presented to us by Superintendent Warble. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstaining, nay. Again, let the minutes reflect a 5-0 vote. This board approved the agenda as presented. I would like to say, Mr. Warble, I like the information factors. It's very informative agenda, and I appreciate it. I'm sure the rest of the board does. Thank you very much. That brings us to item 4, approval of minutes. We have June 25th, 2020 board minutes regular meeting. Also July 6th, 2020 board minutes for our statutory meeting.
I didn't find any inaccuracies.
Everybody happy with them?
Motion that we approve the minutes approved.
I'll second.
There's a motion on the floor, Mr. Brogan, seconded by Vice President Farley, that this board approve the minutes from our June 25th, 2020 board meeting, as well as July 6th, 2020 board minutes for our statutory meeting. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstaining, let the minutes reflect by a vote of 5-0 in the affirmative, this board has approved June 25th minutes and July 6th minutes. That brings us to item 5, which is public comment. If we have anybody turn in, we have no public comment. Presentations. Superintendent Warble, any presentations?
Mike, do you have anything you want to update the board on?
I can. I don't really have a presentation, but I do have an update.
That'd be fine. Chair recognizes Osborne for an update on the HVAC at the high school, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
To date, we are complete on all of the big items. That's the air conditioning units on the roof and all the associated ductwork. The AC1 and AC2. AC1 is for the admin area, and the LPN and adult education, ProStart, that area, that's all in. It's all operational. It's been started and checked. We got, I take that back. AC1 is for the office and admin area, and AC2 is for the auditorium. Those are the 2 alternates that we took on the bid. and that's all operational. It's on. It's not being controlled with the overall system, but the controls are hooked up. The two rooftop units over ProStart and the LPN rooms, they're both installed. They're both working, and all the controls are in for those. However, and I've got additional items down here. There's ductwork, existing ductwork in there that was not in the contract. And when we got ready to do the air balance, some of it was not hooked up, and those guys wouldn't touch it because it wasn't in the original contract. So we're going to request a cost to do that, and it'll be done within the contract. And I wanted to tell you all about that, and we're going to have to do that. What we'll do is Eric will have to send a request to ZMM, and they put it on the form, and then we send it to SBA, and then it'll come before you all to say that, yeah, you know about it and approve it. And that's for those two rooftop units in ProStart and LPN. Then there's a mass air handler that's in the business area, et cetera, in the old part between the admin area and the adult learning. That's for the hallways, and there's a mechanical room in there and some toilets right there. You know, the business room or whatever with the computers, that controls all of that. See, all of that, what isn't on the main system for the classrooms, and we did replace that. And I think we were having issues with the one in ProStart, making a bunch of noise, and we fixed that. That was part of the contract, and that got that all straightened up. The two big units that you see up on the roof, they're operational. That's all the makeup air, the outside makeup air, and all that duct work, all that's in. It's operational. All the electric's in, all the controls are in. Then we've made two new mechanical rooms. They're complete, and they're in the corridors. One of them's on the trackside corridor, and one of them's on the riverside corridor. The one on the trackside controls all the classrooms on that side. All that's in. All the piping's in the corridors. All that's been tested. It's been cleaned. It's been flushed and cleaned. And today we had the big tanker truck there, and they're filling it back up with clean glycol. And they were testing it when I left down there this afternoon. Pressure testing again with the new glycol in it, because they were bleeding it off actually, like a brake line, getting the air out of it. And so we have 5 of those units, I take that back. We got 7 of those units, and they're all in. There's 2 of them in the mechanical room. There's 2 of them in room 208, and 3 of them in room 118. 208 and room 118 are the ones, I guess they were utility and little office rooms. We turned them into mechanical rooms. And all that work's done. And then there were 46 heat pumps in the corridors. We took all those out, and they hauled them off for junk. Facility said we didn't need those. So we took out 46 old heat pumps. Those were controlling all the classrooms, were blowing air to the classrooms. We took all those out, and we put 5 back in. And out of those five, you got 2 of them that are controlling the corridors on either side of the admin, the office area, and then on the other side of the library, and for the cafeteria, all those for that, because none of that's on the recirc, on the 2-pipe system. All the branch controllers are in. Like I said, all the piping's in, all the supply water piping from in the mechanical rooms in. The pumps are in, but we just got those where they were cycling right, and we had to rebuild one of the new pumps. And they got that where it was taken care of. The controls are all in, and they've been checked with each of these individual units to turn them on and off, but we don't have the whole system being controlled, so that like room 208 or whatever down in the D wing on the track side is coordinated with the other side. We don't have that yet. That's yet to come. Like I said, the pumps and the boilers are installed, but the heat system is not checked out yet. It's started up. We've started the pumps, started the boilers, and checked them. but that's not been tested yet. To finish, we got to do ceilings, testing and balancing, and inspections. And what we did several weeks ago when the fire marshal came back to look at the work we've done with the wiring and the ceilings, we set the date for him to come back. We got to have him back 2 weeks before we want to occupy the building. And we told him, based on running around with Al ran around with us and everything, we set the date for occupancy for the 10th of August. And we're trying to get the fire marshal in there 2 weeks ahead of time, which will be the 31st of this month. And they're set up to do that. And if everything works out, we'll have an occupancy permit for the 10th of August for the teachers to come back. And we know now that, we got the fiasco after Labor Day or whatever, okay? But we should be good to hit that mark, and that way it'll help with things like waxing floors. We can start in D-wing. Eric has asked me to figure out where we can start waxing floors, which will be on the track side down towards the football field. That wing, we can start coming that way. But we can occupy on the 10th, but these guys aren't going to be completely finished probably until sometime the end of August, maybe even into the middle of September. We don't have the heating going yet, and obviously even after they get it all set up, they're going to have to come back when we get some cold weather to make all the blast adjustments.
We should have all the inside with the.
Oh, yes, everything, you can occupy the building, you'll have cooling. We've got air running through the air systems up there, the auditorium, his area, admin area is cold. I mean, we got cold air there. And what we're doing with those fans is trying to blow it in the rest of the building to keep the humidity. We're required to have like 60%, or I think it's 61 or 62% humidity is what's ideal for in there. We've been running 65 and 66 some days. Some of those guys are in and out of the doors on the other end of the building and that kind of thing. But it's going to be in pretty good shape. We had a little bit of a fiasco this past week with the daggone guys putting the ceiling tiles in. I walked down to the gymnasium down there, and the lights were one 2-foot section off the left side, and up at the cafeteria they were centered up, and I was like, well, we want these centered up, and they got mad and left. They got to get them back. They're a funny bunch, those guys. But anyway, right now, and they just sent the last payment application, they were 85% paid out, which worked pretty good. And there was about $585,000 left. But just today, I got their payment application 8, and they want 94%, which only leaves about 322. I think that's too much. That's about a 10% jump. If things slow down, there's not a big bunch of major stuff on it. I mean, they were slamming big stuff in, and these bigger payouts were $400,000, $500,000. That was for all that equipment. I don't think they need that much, because we got, like I said, they're going to probably be in and out between now and mid-September, finishing things up, and then probably come back after we get the first cold snap. And that won't have to be freezing weather, but it's going to need to be down around 40, 45 or something like that for them to check some of that stuff out. And kind of with all that said, too, we've got that duct that I talked about in the LPN and ProStar area. We definitely need to do that work. I think we definitely need to approve that change order. And I think that's probably going to be less than $5,000.
Is that a ZMN oversight?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so you think it's only about $5,000?
And that will still be within the range of SBA appropriations.
Yes, sir.
With that oversight of
Oh,
CMA.
yes, sir.
Okay.
And then the facility guys, we've got those old gas radiant heaters in the gymnasium that are beat to death and they're non-functional. They've asked if maybe we could get the contractor to take those out. And what they would do is they take those out and haul them off. And then where the gas connections are, they just put a blank there. And then for the electrical, they just take it back to the nearest junction box and deadhead it there. Then there's two heaters up in the, where you go in back there to storage, and then there's two heaters up on the upstairs back there, the football side of
In the gym, yes.
in the gym. Those two, they've been having a lot of trouble with those. And apparently ZMM had given them a price to do that, but then ZMM was afraid that was going to cost too much and it would run the budget over on this. And so they didn't do that. I looked at those today. I thought maybe we would get a price from them, from the contractor to do those. And then there was an issue that came up. We were testing the smoke detectors. And the reason I'm bringing that one up, we got existing smoke detectors, and then the contract put some new smoke detectors in the ducts and in a couple of the mechanical rooms that will hook to the whole system. We tested some of them and they all worked, but we want to get, I talked to Eric, we need to get safe and sound to make sure that they know that those are all working before we need to replace them. It'd be pretty costly to replace them. And I'm saying a couple of these things. I got one more thing to say, and then I talked to Kenny about it a little bit, and I've talked to you all about the ongoing maintenance. We get 2 years on this contract, but there's some money left. And the contract, this contract was about 3.8, and that's what we've got right now on the books. Your budget was about 4.2. When everything's said and done, there'll probably be about maybe 252 and a quarter left on this contract, and that's some money that you could get SBA to pay for some things. I don't know that you could get the smoke detectors, and I don't know if SBA would consider that HVAC, but the ongoing maintenance, they might buy off on it, but I think we ought to request proposals for these and see if they'll fly with SBA. And I think it would, and then you can maybe pick from these if you want to do these on this contract. But I think you've got about, maybe conservatively, we should say 2.25 after everything's said and done that you could pick out of these 5 items. And I can write it up and get it to where, and I can get it to Eric, and Eric can just forward it to SBA. And then I can call Mike Hall and tell him what we're looking at here, and then he can decide if SBA, if it's eligible under the contract from SBA, and then he would send it back to us. The only item on here that definitely has to be done would be the duct in the LPN. But the other ones, you might be able to get him to pay for those under this contract. And
We've got 225 left. We don't spend it,
it goes back to him, yeah.
Try not to let that happen.
Yeah,
Superintendent will discuss that.
I don't think he's going to do the fire suppression or the fire alarm. I don't think, but we could try. But I think it'd be great if you could get a couple more years on that maintenance contract. That was a great idea that Kenny brought up.
So, as it stands, you've got the fire marshal scheduled to come in to give a certificate of occupancy so that would meet our August 10th deadline.
Yes.
And, of course, the board has every expectation that they will have their job finished, other than things you have to come back and do, but they'll have it finished by August 10th.
Well, let's don't call it finished. Let's call it occupancy. You'll get occupancy.
Okay.
But
Well, then, but I would hope that it would be to the point where they don't have to do interruption of classes and whatnot. They just have to come back and check things and do that.
Well, there's some work, some of this work, but they've already said that they will come back at night. They will not do day shift again. They'll take care of that for us.
That's very good.
Yeah, it's going good, and they've done a really good quality job. And but
Do you think we need to hold back a little more money rather than give them what they're asking for?
oh, this payout, yes, I don't think they're but about 5% more. They're asking for 9.5%, but I didn't have a chance to go through all the numbers today. But 94% is too much for right now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other presentations? That takes us to item 7, approval of bills. Mr. Angel, are you happy?
Okay, everybody's happy? I'll make a motion to pay these.
I'll say,
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mr. Angel, that this board approve the paying of the bill presented to us by Superintendent Warble. Is there any discussion? Anybody that needs to abstain other than myself? Okay. All right. All in favor of paying the bills as presented, please say aye.
aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstaining, the chair abstains. The minutes reflect of our 4-0 vote to affirmative, that this board approved the paying of the bills, the chair abstains. That moves us on to item 8, approve transfers and supplements.
Did you receive those copies at all?
I believe so, yeah. Or the ones from the last meeting, correct?
Yeah, if you didn't, I brought copies. I don't know that she gave me all the copies.
Is there a large number of them for?
No, it's nothing that, a lot of it is like, with, Suddenlink and American Water Payment, and then you have, the transfers of some step 7 and some grants and title monies. Because last spring, we didn't get to spend money because we weren't in school. But what we're gonna do, especially with the title money, is do community involvement to educate people about what we're trying to do this school year with either virtual, blended learning, or brick and mortar, because people are gonna have to know our expectations. But as you've seen already with the governor throwing out the new date, we're not even sure about athletics until possibly tomorrow. It's hard to know how we're going to spend the money, but we at least have that money that can be transferred to be used toward the first part of the school year to educate our parents, and that's called a community involvement. So what we can also do with that money is provide a meal to our parents, a real meal, not just donuts and coffee, actually a meal. And then the other thing is we can provide stipends to our teachers to educate our parents. And I think that'd be a great thing for our community to be well aware of all the things we're trying to do to educate their children and keep them safe from all the things out there in this world, including COVID.
So, Mr. Warble, for the public, I take it that you're working on 3 possible options. One is the brick and mortar where we're in school normal as an option. 2 is blended, which would mean some instruction at school as well as instruction over computers.
Correct.
Or the other one being straight virtual learning where students are getting all instruction away from school sites.
Correct, because those parents that would not like to bring their son or daughter to school because they're concerned about COVID, which I understand that concern, that would be an option. We want all kids in Summers County to go through our school system so they get a great education. So we're going to invite anybody that's done homeschool in the past, we can provide that for them as well, as save them money and provide them an education through our school system. So we're going to work on trying to get people enrolled to our school system so we can make sure these kids have some accountability towards what we want is to make our kids better than what they were when they came into us to get them prepared for the next year or if you're at high school, get you ready for a career or college or a job.
So for at-home instruction, you'll be looking at those students who have high-speed internet capabilities to do that.
Correct.
And then I believe you told me you're looking at, for students who don't have internet access, you're looking at thumb drives with downloaded teaching and instruction, correct?
Correct, and we're also looking at third party where the guy behind the camera there, Kim, Mr. Lester has done, we are talking to different people on trying to get free Wi-Fi to our communities. Now, that's a heavy lift. Is it possible? Yes. It always comes down to the money part of it. But right now, we can provide laptops to every kid, and then they would be signed up through our domain, and then they would get that Wi-Fi in the pocket area that they live in, but it would still be under control of, they can't go on the sites they should. And I'm not talking about ESPN, okay? But that free Wi-Fi that could be provided to anybody that wanted to get on it, but I can't control other people. All I can control is the internet access that we provide to those children. So we will be on a one-to-one, and we will provide a computer, but they have to fill out a acceptable use policy and understand guidelines. That's that education piece where people come into a gymnasium like this or classrooms, and the kids' parents get taught, or grandfamilies get taught, because I know if I'm, like my mother-in-law at 77, she loves texting, but that doesn't mean she understands how to open a document and do the homework assignment and get it back in a timely fashion. So when you talk about our food that we deliver, and if we have to be shut down completely like we did last year, we want to deliver with our bus drivers. They will become our homework assigners by here's your thumb drive or here's your internet access. But we are trying multiple facets, but we haven't unveiled what we're doing, because until I know all the ins and outs and educate the community, we'll be ready. But there's a few little wrinkles in there that we want to make sure that we beta test before it goes out 24/7. We're getting there.
We just have to wait to see what kind of decree the governor makes.
Well, and it's only day 5 for me. Wait till 6, it'll get more exciting. So
Okay.
we're all right. We're gonna get there. We will promise a great education to the Summers County school system. We will do that.
Okay, so we have item A, approved transfers and supplements. If nobody has any further questions on the chair, would entertain a motion to accept approve the transfers and supplements as presented to the board by the superintendent.
I'll make a motion to approve the transfers and supplements.
I'll say,
Motion on the floor by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mr. Angel. That this board approve the transfers and supplements as presented to this board by Superintendent Warble. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstaining? Let the minutes reflect a 5 vote to affirm that this board has approved the transfers and supplements as presented to this board by the superintendent. That brings us now to item 9, old business. We have 9A, approved policies 6-A-5, films, movies, videos, etc. We also have policy 4-H-8, substitute service personnel refusal to work policy, and also 6-B-2, public school / curriculum.
I'd like to take this second.
Okay, we'll go with the first item, policy 9A, which is 6-A-5, films, movies, videos, etc. Chair will entertain a motion or question.
We had just brought that back before Mr. Ward, where we got here. We did discussion on the top, SIC meeting. We've got movies and books that are being used, they're not age appropriate. They have language in it, if you catch kids in the hallway talking and saying that they're reading the book, you're going to accept it. I don't have a problem with them if they're age appropriate, but they're not. For example, one of the books I wanted my grandson to read, his mother took his library card out of the library and checked the book out. they would not let her check it out on his card because it's not an age appropriate book for him. I think if we can find some stuff that's age appropriate, and does not have to file language and nudity and everything in the movies and videos, you know. And I realize they're not showing the whole video, but they're showing parts of it. And I was showing one thing, I don't know, believe it or not, if I've seen part of it, guarantee I want to see the rest of it. I would check it out somewhere and watch the rest of it. I just don't think it's fair for us to give that stuff to our kids and then try to punish them when they say something that they've read or seen. That's my side of it, that's where I stand. Y'all will do it.
Okay, we have item 9A, old business. It's policy 6-A-5, film, movies, videos, etc. Is there a motion on this policy by any board member?
Well, I was home voting on all of these, to give you a chance to look at them, maybe your opinion.
Well, here's what I want to tell you guys. Right now, it's called Bolts Rice to see what it would cost to clean up all policies. So this might not be as big of an issue because everything would just be vetted through Bolts Rice. Another company is Neola. They do the same thing. I will get back with you all if you want to just freeze all this, hold it off, and then I can come back with you to have them do a presentation. So you can answer all these, ask questions like this and have a dialogue with these companies and say, okay, we want to know the cost, but what do you do for that cost? And then we go from there. Neola is more online, and anybody can pull up online board documents, policies, and they've been around for a while, and they've been in all the states. Bolts Rice is more familiar with what we do in this state. So is Neola, but we all know Bolts and Rice is a standard when it's called anything with school law. So they can do a one-time read-through and go through it, and then they're done. The other company can go through it one time, but then they'll come back every year for a nominal fee of around, let's say, $2,500. But that $2,500 a year on this other company gives you updates as soon as something becomes law July 1. And then if, let's say, we'll just use this first document, it's with movie presentations. If legislation says to do X and we have to do X, they have their attorneys vet it, and then they come and work with us every year after July 1 in the summer and say, these policies have been updated and they're fixed. And then the board just, you guys act on them after that, and you don't have to do any thinking, but you have time to discuss it because now it's been vetted through the attorneys. That's the two different ways of doing it. So I'm asking to meet with them and get some costs because I've seen this has been an issue here in the past as I've gotten a little more familiar with what's been going on in this county, and we do not have to move forward if you would like and just hold on and then look at updating all our policies through Bolts Rice and Neola. And if you don't like that, I can do my homework and see if we can find another company. But I can tell you right now, the first 4 chapters of the policies in this county right now, about 27% have not been updated since 1974. And that's 1 out of 3 if you look at it that way. If you look at the first 4 chapters of policies in this county, in the last 10 years, 60% have not been updated. That's just something for you guys, and that's just the first 4 chapters.
And that was a point of contention by the State Department when they came here to do an investigation, was they looked at our school board policies.
Yes.
And they found to be very deficient.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that they're going to be talking to us when we go visit with them in August.
Correct.
And there are policies that need to be in there for conducting business that are not in there. So we have 9A old business. We have 3 policies here. And we've heard from the superintendent that he can do to look into these. He's also looking at either Rolls Royce or Neola to possibly give us a cost on what they would do to update our policies to make them compliant with state and federal laws and guidelines. So having said that, the chair entertains a motion at this time on these policies.
Mr. Chair, can I make one?
Absolutely.
This is where the new guy comes in, and I'm pushing back on you guys, so I want you to think.
Okay?
It's fun to do it in front of God and country here, but the second two policies, if you look at them,
They have to be done.
I would like to say, my recommendation is get them through tonight, because if you look at the second one, we have a hard enough time, and anybody in this room knows in public education, it's hard to get subs. We are trying to say that if you sub 10 days or more, we will pay for your background check. We're trying to keep people at least 10 days, because some people, they'll go in 1 or 2 times, and we have a bus driver in the audience, and he knows how hard it is to get subs. I would like to submit to you that this policy is just trying to keep people around, because all 50 states are having problems with subs anymore. And then the next policy on the curriculum, it's actually updating our state standard, because technically speaking, this county's state standard policy is not updated. So these two are not as crucial, are more crucial than the movies, because we can deal with that one. But these two really need to be approved. So that's my point of view, to let you guys know.
Well,
So
the
that's
chair-
my pushback.
The chair moves that this board table policy item 6-A-5, films, movies, videos, etc., until such time as Superintendent Warble has been able to review those policies in conjunction with looking at someone who will review all of the policies. That's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion on the floor by the chair, second by Mr. Angel, that this board table item 6-A-5, films, movies, videos, etc. policy until such time as the superintendent is able to review our policies and see their compliance with state and federal law. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstained. Let the minutes reflect that by 5-0 vote in affirmative, this board has approved tabling of 6-A-5, films, movies, videos, etc., until Superintendent Warble has had additional time to work and investigate. That brings us to item 4-H-8, substitute service personnel refusal to work policy. Chair would entertain a motion on this policy.
I make a motion to approve this policy.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Angel, seconded by Mr. McBride, that this board approve policy 4-H-8, substitute service personnel refusal to work policy. Is there any discussion?
I have one point that I would like to make.
Yes, ma'am.
I still think that 10 days is going to be hard for those who are trying to get on a full-time basis and still are trying to work another job until they can. I'm concerned that 10 days will cost us people. And I understand,
Cost us?
well, I've actually lived this process.
Well, yeah.
And when you're trying to work a full-time job and you're trying to keep your name in the hat to get considered for becoming a substitute, there are times when you're called and you have to actually call in one job to work another.
Yeah.
And I think that 10 days might make that difficult for someone who would very much like to get into the system as a full-time substitute in hopes of moving up as full-time, as a cook, as a bus driver, as an aide. I'm afraid that 10 days will make it a little bit of a challenge for them. That's my only concern. The previous policy, I think, was 3 days. That probably, wasn't enough. But that's my 2 cents.
What do you think?
5, 7,
Well, your job is to do policy, and if you recommend to back it down, I just think there has to be a number that says, I'll get this paid for me if I put in some time. It's a push and pull, you can actually, sometimes when you do something, you think it's good, and you find out unintended consequences. So I get what you're saying there.
This was written before you got it, what you recommend.
if I pick a number, it's arbitrary, and there's no data. You guys always ask the questions, I'm telling you straight up, honest, I don't know what is fair. Since Ms. Farley has been in this, it's a victim of circumstance. What do you, right, because honestly, this is one of those things that's very negotiable. I just think we need to put something out there to try to keep our stuff to say, if you do this, we'll give you this. I know where you're coming from, because the call system is, you could be busy doing one job, already in the system, and you're turned down another, and then you didn't pick up the phone because you're busy with another job. I get where you're coming
Well,
from.
and while 10 days doesn't sound like a lot, especially with some of these jobs, your start date is not necessarily at the beginning of the school year.
Correct, you're right.
Sometimes training jobs for bus drivers, they have a class sometimes in January or even March. So you have to get 10 days in. I don't know if that's per calendar year, but 10 days in a short span of time like that, I would think would be a bit of a challenge. I'm
sorry, go ahead.
My initial response would be 5. That may be too few. Would you like to split the difference at 7?
Might I interject? I understand you need a policy on the books. How would you feel if we have a motion and a second on the floor on this? How would you feel if we entertain this motion and if it passes, do it? And then you may confer with Superintendent Warble and you all see what you might think. And you can always bring back, put this on the agenda to amend this policy.
I'm fine with that.
Are you okay with that?
If we see that it has a negative effect.
Well, and then at that time too, we can also prorate too, depending on hire dates. You could change, if you come in at the beginning of the year, now just because this is a discussion, it's cheap, right? You could say 10 days if you come at the beginning of the year. If you come in halfway, you cut that to 5. If you come in at the last quarter, you say 3. I'm just saying we could be reasonable like this COVID. You kind of have to have a sliding scale. It's very fluid. That's also another way to do it, to be fair. Because if I do come in at the end, there's no guarantee I'm going to get 10 days unless it's someone having a surgery or a pregnancy. You know, you come in at the right time. That's very rare.
Okay.
I would say, since we have a motion second, we have a policy which you clearly need. Ms. Farley has brought up very good points. So it's a policy, but policies can be amended, so if you discuss that, you'll put it back on the agenda and we can move to amend it to whatever you all think is most appropriate. Does that sound okay to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, the chair calls for a vote on the question. The question is approving 4-H-8 substitute service personnel refusal to work policy. We have a motion and a second on the floor. We've had discussion. All in favor of approving this policy at this time, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstaining, yea. Let the minutes reflect by 5 vote in the affirmative, this board has approved policy 4-H-8 substitute service personnel refusal to work policy. That brings us to 9A, policy 6-B-2, public school curricula. The chair moves that this board approve policy 6-B-2, public school curricula as presented to us. There's a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion on the floor of the chair, second by Mrs. Farley, that we approve 6-B-2 public school curricula. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay. Abstaining? Aye. Let the minutes reflect the 5 vote in the affirmative. This board has approved old business item 9A, 6-B-2 public school curriculum. That brings us to 9B, discussion and or action concerning the CPFP plan. Superintendent Warble.
Well, it's like, sorry. Can you hear me, Art? I'll just stand up real quick. The CFP, what we're allowed to do with the state superintendent, there's new deadlines. And what we can do is amend our CFP. And since I'm seeing that we didn't get as much community involvement and we didn't have the board members' involvement with it, I would propose that we have board meetings like this, a work session with the board meetings so we can have public comments as well as your comments as we look to amend the CEFP. Because I know one of them was closing one of our elementaries. I don't propose that because we need to keep that elementary open for that community. Because if you close that elementary down, I'm concerned those kids could go over to Raleigh County to the shady area. And when you start losing students, there goes your funding sources, and you start losing teaching positions, or bus drivers, cooks, etc. And we need to really look at that. The other reason we need to look at it is because lately, I know 2 board members have come with me to look at the middle school building. We have a serious roof problem that it's not an if, it's a when we're going to have more issues with that school building. Tracy Cox has given us his report, but he has a little side note on it. If we get any kind of rain, which we will, or a snow load, the wetness of that building is there already, whether on a dry day. On a rainy day or a saturation day, when it comes down on that roof, it will go back into the walls or to the ceiling, and that building was built at a time when asbestos was used. The concern with asbestos is, once it gets wet, it starts flaking off. And anybody knows asbestos starts flaking off. If anybody's in a room like this, you don't know what you're breathing in because you can't see that, let alone mold and mildew and other. So at this point in time, we're in a situation where we need to involve a critical need to look at funding from the SBA, where we can get money to our county so we can have a better school setting for our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students, as well as the staff who works in there daily and yearly. And my concern is what they're breathing in during the school day. And I know I have allergies and some asthma myself, and just walking in the building, when I went through it a couple times, I started coughing a little bit, and that's just a guy who's just in there the first day. I love that school. It's got some character. It has history, but everything does have an expiration date, and that school has probably seen better days, guys, to be upfront and honest. And I think our community members need to come in and hear and work with you all and have input and see what we can do to make our school system better. And with the CFP, I have a gentleman tomorrow from the SBA that is going to do a serious look, not SBA, excuse me, with the Schools Facility Commission. The right-hand man to Mr. Young is coming tomorrow, and I contacted him Monday, and he needs to be here soon, because when I explained him, he took it very serious. I know my call's been mentioned numerous times, but this guy can help my call and move forward and try not to have any money used from this county. It would be all from the SBA to help with our emergency situation. Now, we'll see what happens with that, but if I'm here tomorrow, I know you're definitely going to be with me. We'll hear the report. We can report back to you at the next board meeting. We'll probably have more officials report back. Then we need to do the CEFP process all over again, and we can amend that. And my proposal would be, you all have an official board meeting, but you need to make it where people can come in and you listen to people in the community and have their opinion. Because I'm only one person. You need to hear from people who actually live and take their kids to those schools. And that's why I want to fight for Jumping Branch to not, be closed. I'm sure a lot of you feel that way as well. But at the same time, we also have a middle school that needs to be seriously looked at. And I know I'm not telling you guys anything you already know. But if you want to put $800,000 into a roof, that's a lot of money, guys. To update that roof is almost $1 million. And you know what you can do with $1 million with a new facility? You get a return on your investment. And that's what SBA is going to look at. What is the return on the investment when you put into a facility? Do you all have any other questions for me? Because I've done too much talking right now.
I have a couple of points to make. One, when you go past the high school Brooks, there's a whole lot of county north of there. And I've watched this for 30-some years. A tremendous amount of revenue for this county has gone across the line into Fayette County because our citizens in that part of the area felt like that Meadow Bridge was a community school. because it's so close to them. And we've lost hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to Fayette County because of the fact we don't have a school. Now, I'm not condemning that process, if it wasn't possible to have a school, but it has cost us money. And I promise you that if you close Jumping Branch School, we will lose hundreds of thousands of dollars of students who will go right on across the line to brand new schools very close in Shady Springs. Not to mention the fact of the importance of community schools and community-based schools. And I had a conversation with Mike Paul at the SBA, and he agreed with me wholeheartedly on that. And he also agreed with me on exactly what you said regarding the middle school structure. So having said that, it would seem to me, Mr. Warble, and everybody jump in here and say what you think. With 9B, discussion of action concerning the CEFP plan, it would seem to me that pending the visit from the State Department tomorrow to look at the middle school, and pending an opportunity to properly advertise a open meeting where we get people's input, it would seem to me that we table this item until you've had time to look at it more, have the meeting we'll have tomorrow with the State Department, and then we'll get something back on the agenda to it. Would that work for you?
That's fine, because like I said earlier, if we're gonna educate parents on how we're gonna do school this year, because it's gonna be a little bit different, we also need to educate you all about how people feel about their school system. And if we can listen to all parties, we'll come up with a great plan to make sure we take care of our kids. So the goal is to keep our kids in this county and to work with the families and hear their points of view as we look at a building project. This won't be done very quickly, but we need to move as quickly as we can because the state has offered us a new deadline schedule. So this is a great opportunity for us to amend the CEFP. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
I'll just go ahead and put it out there so we can move on. The chair moves that this board table item 8B, discussion or action regarding the CEFP plan. Chair moves that we table that pending some further investigation of the superintendent and give the superintendent an opportunity to bring us back to us on an agenda for possible hearings. Okay, we have a motion on the floor of the chair, seconded by Mr. McBride, that we table 9B. The superintendent has an opportunity to further work on this, and with the understanding possibly would be amending the CEFP after having hearings. You good? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstaining, aye. Let the minutes reflect a final vote in affirming this board has approved the tabling of item 9B concerning CEFP plan pending further investigation by the superintendent with the possibility of hearings or possible amendment of the CEFP plan. We'll move now to item 10, new business. 10A, approved purchases over $5,000. Have any?
We just have one, and it's the APL Associate Consultants Agreement. APL deals with classroom management. I've been through this myself a while back. The gentleman that does it still does it to this day, and it is great professional learning for our staff because anytime you understand your discipline, doesn't mean you can teach kids attention. And this is great classroom management, and they'll be working with our educators on this program. The cost of the service is just under $12,000. It's $11,900.60.
Could you tell us a little bit about the parameters of this professional development? When, how long, where this will be conducted?
It's going to be, the training dates are July 14th, 15th, and 16th. It's at the high school, correct?
It actually got moved to here.
Are you moving here because of the building?
Yeah.
That's why I was asking you, because I thought maybe it got moved just recently.
The associates did one in October.
I got you. Makes sense. 45 people can participate. And what he does is, The gentleman does a great training, and if one of you can be there, you'll find it to be very interactive, put people on the spot. He did it to me. Probably because my name was Dave, like his name was Dave. And right away, he gets your attention, he makes you focus, and then he always keeps coming back for checking understanding. Then he also deals with a situation where a few people in the audience pretend to be troublemaker teenagers. But what I like about it is that's one thing to do with a show that troublemaker teenagers, because eventually adults just get tired of playing that game and they're just quit being a person who's not interested. But what he does is he gives you techniques, and if people ask questions on how to, what if this happened? And he does a great job of getting the kids to pay attention because he keeps going back and checking for understanding. So for example, if Stan doesn't raise his hand or he doesn't pay attention, I can go, Stan, what did I just say? What did I just say, Stan? And if Stan can't repeat it, you can go, can I have someone in the audience tell me what I just told you guys? And then what you're always doing is, it's almost like if you're not paying attention, you're going to get called out. And he does it in a way that isn't mean. It's just, he wants you to check for understanding because that's what you're teaching in the classroom standards. And this is a great PD that I've recommended in the county I was before. It is a little expensive, but I'll tell you what, it's worth the investment. And I still have the books and the cheat sheets for myself to work with people on this as well. But if you all have some time that day just to come in and see what happens, I guarantee you will not be bored and you will learn something before you leave that day. It's very interactive.
What's the date?
14, 15, 16. How about this week on my weekly conversation?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I had to think about that. The sun is really melting my brain right now. But yeah, I can, on my weekly communication with you all, you want me to send you a reminder in case you'd like to know? And it is here, correct? That's correct.
Where's the money coming from to pay for this?
Well, we have title money
Okay.
that's the good thing with title money right now. Like I said, we didn't use a lot of it, but we can justify it because it affects classroom instruction.
That's federal money,
Yes,
Title I federal money.
yeah.
Is that, use it or lose it?
Right now, no. Right now, no. Because of COVID has helped release some strings. But with title money, it's usually done by the end of September. That's our fiscal year. It's really weird how different title or different budgets have different fiscal years. It doesn't match up to our fiscal year.
There is limitations on what you can use that money for.
Yes, there is. Depending if it's title 1, 2, 3, or 4. Yeah.
One other question. How would you choose the 45 positions?
From what I understand, didn't they sign up for this? Is that correct?
We have,
we have 25 middle schools, the high school had quite a few. But I think it went over 45 actually because they went virtually.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know about that, because before I came in, I knew a little bit to be dangerous, but right now, I think what we have is, we have too many people wanting to be in. That's a good headache, guys, it really is. Ken, are you addressing the virtual piece with them?
Yeah, so we got the presenters to actually agree to us to send it out virtually. So people can be at home if they want and actually,
They allow us to do that.
yes, and record it as well.
Ken, can our board members get a link if they want to just?
I can send the link to them, yeah.
Let's do that, that way you guys can just peek in and jump out.
Could I offer a suggestion on this? In doing this, from your various schools, could you have certain members that are taking this training become like designated people who could then become trainers if you want to come back to the entire school, set some meetings that you do professional development throughout the year, where they can actually discuss that, do further presentations as well as with some of the directors. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I could actually teach it. I'm not trained in it by any fact. I'm not as good as the original, but you can take those techniques and for like new teachers. This would be great for our new teachers
Absolutely.
with classroom management. That's a good fit. But if you have a teacher that's struggling with classroom management, because most people know their discipline, it's just kids can be a little difficult. I wouldn't want to be with kindergarten kids except to be taking a picture and say, how's your day going? Because that's a lot of movement. I'm more equipped with 4 through 12. But my point is you can apply it to the middle school and high school more because those kids are the ones that are old enough to challenge you, let's put it that way. It's more appropriate for upper elementary to high school, honestly. The little ones, it's not for that kind of training because this is more for kids who understand expectations a little bit more. Now, we can argue that sometimes kindergartens meet expectations a lot better than our older kids, but let's face it, when you're bigger than them, you can say, because I said so, doesn't always work either. But long story short, this is better for 4th, 5th, and on up than the little ones for the training.
What's the exact amount?
$11,900.60.
And the name of the training?
APL Associates.
The chair moves that this board approve the expenditure of $11,900.60 for APL Association training for classroom management for the dates of 14, 15, 16 July. There's a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Brogan. Motion on the floor of the chair, second by Mr. Brogan. This board approved the expenditure of $11,900.60 as per superintendent's request for APL Association training on classroom management. Any discussion?
I have one. I need to make a correction. Because I don't like to speak out of turn. It appears I have, according to Mr. Lewis. So thank you. I appreciate that. It's not the title money. I got confused. It's the CSI. That basically.
Remember school improvement grant?
That's what I was saying. Remember the old school improvement? Now it's CSI. I don't think they changed the acronym around. So sorry about that. I thought it was title money. It is not. It's CSI.
Since that language is appeared in the motion, we're okay with everybody now understanding.
But yeah, I want to be full transparency. I thought it was title and I apologize for that, guys.
Is there any discussion on the, is there a point, Mr. Williams? Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Abstaining? Aye. Let the minutes reflect that by a vote of 5-0 conformity, this board has approved the $11,900.60 expenditure for APL Association for classroom management training for the dates of July 14, 15, and 16. That moves us on to item 10B, approved leader and me agreement at Hinton Area Elementary for 2020-2021 school term. I've heard an awful lot of good comments from the Hinton area about this program. I know that the staff and the administration there believe in this, and I think it showed a lot of positive results. Therefore, the chair moves that we approve the leader and me agreement at Hinton Area Elementary for the 2020-2021 school term.
I'd like to second that.
There's a second by Mr. Angel. Is there any discussion?
I've been here a little longer than most of you. I had the opportunity to do it before they started, so went back after that. Couldn't believe the teachers that were getting into it, the students on. It's outstanding.
I've never heard any bad comments. I've only heard good comments and testimonials like that. So any other discussion?
I might add that I was concerned about approving this, and I think we're going to take work on some more. I think that's all, and that's here. What would happen, we end up not having school at all, but from what I understand, it's still a youth program, so I think it's a good thing.
Okay. Chair calls for a vote on the question of approving the leader and me agreement in Area Elementary for 2021 school term. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Abstaining? Aye. Let the minutes reflect by a vote of 5-0 in the affirmative, this board has approved the leader and me agreement at Area Elementary for 2020-2021 school term. 10C, approved memorandum of understanding between Tracy Cox and Summers County Schools. Could you enlighten us a little bit on that, Mr. Walker?
Yeah, the memorandum of understanding says Tracy Cox and Summers County Schools. The MOU sets forth the terms understanding between Tracy Cox and Summers County Schools due to asbestos work, which I alluded to a little bit today or earlier. The MOU will ensure that AHVRA asbestos compliance rules are met. The above goals will be accomplished by undertaking the following activities: asbestos cleanup at Summers Middle concerning smart board installation, install mounting brackets and seal areas where chalkboard were removed, ready loose chalkboard for transport to Ham landfill. Record information to each school management plan and in the office of management plans. Funding or the general funds of $1,000. Duration Monday, August 5th, 2019, and he gives us contact information there. Mr. Cox is very concerned that technically, yes, we could have occupancy, but he said another rain to do this all over again because he cannot guarantee anything except the work that he's done to clean up, guys. So that's where we are at this point in time.
The chair moves that we approve the memorandum of understanding between Tracy Cox and Summers County Schools.
Also,
Motion on the floor of the chair, seconded by Mr. Angel, that this board approve the memorandum of understanding between Tracy Cox and Summers County Schools. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstaining, aye. That the minutes reflect a 5-0 vote in the affirmative, this board has approved the memorandum of understanding between Tracy Cox and Summers County Schools. Item 10D, approved memorandum of understanding between Richmond Department of Education, Office of Child Nutrition, and Summers County Schools. Mr. Ward.
This is basically boilerplate every year with the Department of Ed, with the Office of Child Nutrition, that Dr. Knott and myself can sign off and say we're going to meet all the guidelines that are set forth. I will say after today, this is kind of in lieu of this, that our summer feeding program, since we've been doing that with CARES Act money, will officially be done September 30th. That was the date that they gave us today from the State Department. That's the summer feeding. But as we move forward, we'll continue feeding our students, regardless if we have school the traditional way or the non-traditional way, with feeding them 2 meals each day, 5 days a week. So basically, that's what your MOU say in layman's terms.
Chair moves that this board approve the memorandum of understanding between Richmond Department of Education, Office of Child Nutrition, Summers County Schools.
I'll second.
There's a motion on the floor of the chair, seconded by Vice President Farley, that this board approve the memorandum of understanding between Richmond Department of Education, Office of Child Nutrition, Summers County Schools. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstaining, aye. That the minutes reflect a 5-0 vote in affirmative, this board approved the MOU between WDE Office of Child Nutrition, Summers County Schools. Brings item 10E, approved purchase of issue equipment at fair market value. Mr. Ward.
That's the computer that Ms. Rhodes would like to purchase. And it's fair market value, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, $650.
Yes, sir.
That's what she'll be paying to the school district.
Did you say 650?
$650, yes. I
There's
already feel like I'm yelling, sorry.
There's a new business item, 10E, approved purchase of issue equipment, fair market value of $650.
I'll make a motion to approve that, please.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Angel that this board approves purchase of issue equipment. Mr. Brogan, I'm sorry. Market value $650. Is there a second? Second. Okay, second by Mr. McBride. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstaining, aye. That the minutes reflect a 5-0 vote in the affirmative, this board approved the purchase of issued equipment, fair market value of $650. Let's move on to item 10F. Approved to transfer and close out First Community Bank account and combine with City National Bank account in the amount of $74,764.69. Is that just making everything in one bank so that?
Yeah, and, it's kind of interesting, there was 34,000, it grew by 40,000.
That's great interest rate.
Yeah, it is, but that was not what happened. I just want a full disclosure here. You know how you deposit stuff and things don't, it's just the timing of everything. It shouldn't have gone in there, but we know where it is. No more going in there. This is it, and it's all being transferred into one bank. But I would love the interest. You would hire me year after year if I could do that. So, I know that is just dumb luck.
I think maybe you want to do this quickly. We might find out that was an error.
Because then I'm in trouble.
The chair moves that this board approve the transfer and close out First Community Bank account combined with City National Bank account in the amount of $74,764.69. There is a motion.
I'll second.
Motion is seconded by Vice President Farley. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstaining, aye. That the minutes reflect a 5-0 vote against affirmative, this board has approved the transfer and close out the First Community Bank account and combined it with City National Bank account in the amount of $74,764.69. 5 votes affirmative. 10G, discussion and action concerning Vice President duties. This is one of our policies that need to be updated after a conversation with our chief with Rolls Royce. I'll put forth the motion for this policy. Chair moves that this board approve a policy for Summit County Board of Education that states the Vice President of Summit County Board of Education sole duties shall consist of directing school board meetings in the event the board president is not available to chair the meeting. That is the motion for the policy. I'll second. A motion on the floor of the chair, seconded by Mr. Angel, that this board approves a policy for Summit County Board of Education states that the Vice President of Summit County Board of Education sole duties shall consist of directing school board members, school board meetings, in the event the board president is not available to chair the meeting. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. 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 Opposed, nay. Abstaining, aye.
Aye.
Abstaining?
I'll stay for now.
Yeah, okay. Abstaining, Mrs. Clark. Let the minutes reflect by 4 votes, this board approved the 4-red policy, and it was sustained by Vice President, Mrs. Clark. Okay? All right, that will take us to item 11, personnel items, and Superintendent Warble, I'm going to let you go through this, and we'll act one. And we should act, I think, each one individually.
We can start with the first chart there with Marty and Teresa.
Okay?
Do what?
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay, so with Marty, what we've tried to do since I came here is clean this up a little bit. So you see the name, the credentials, the endorsement, and the credentials of that person and their date of it. And then you have the location, and then when we'd like to employ them, and then their funding source. So basically, her funding source is through the special ed funding. What happened is we went back to the original posting, we talked to Marty, it's a 225-day contract. So if you want to fill in employment effective date in 225 days, technically speaking, talking to Marty, she knows that that was the original posting. Maybe she didn't need that many days, but I'm not going to split hairs. But I told her I'd put her to work today, and she smiled just like that. So can you get that on camera? So we will put Marty to work and make sure she works 220. Don't worry about that.
In other words, we'll make sure you earn your money.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't worry, she had a great smile like that. She said, I'd love to do it. And you don't get that all the time. I didn't get it Friday, but we're going to at least vote on it tonight. And then Teresa Allen, just to update you, she with science, middle school science, she did pass her praxis, excuse me. So that pending approval, we still haven't seen it. And once it's in print and sent to us, that'll change. It's just timing of everything, so she has passed, so that's good news. And that will change eventually, so when that happens, it'll automatically go through, because when you vote tonight, Penny, it just came through today, so that we found that out through, contact, that we have to have the paperwork to verify. So that's what's going on with those two employees.
So these are your two recommendations?
Yes.
Anybody opposed with this, vote?
I make a motion to, hire Ms. Mann and, Ms. Allen.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Mr. Angel, seconded by Mrs. Farley. That this board approve the superintendent's recommendation and hire Martha Mann and Lisa Allen for the positions of Martha Mann, academic special education coordinator, and Lisa Allen, sixth grade science summer middle school. Any discussion?
The only thing I forgot to mention is that August 10th deadline. We're going on good faith right now, because I'm working with the unions. The governor, moving goalposts, guys. So that changes this date, but let's just, to be fair to this teacher, we might as well leave the 10th, because it's with everybody else. And she's gonna get what everybody else gets when we move forward.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstaining, aye. Administrative elect a 5-0 vote affirmative. This board has approved superintendent's recommendation to hire Martha Mann for the academic special education coordinator and Lisa Allen for sixth grade science summer middle school. Okay, we'll move over to page 2. And I'll let you handle this. Well,
Okay, I have, this is basically something I hope we have extracurriculars with these extra duties. We have Kathy Levin, this is past practice, she's done the athletic director, and she's gone to the games. You can see the amount that she would receive would be 4,000 plus the second, amount would be 1,000, so she'd be total paid 5,000, that comes out of county funding. You have your 4 principals there, they would all be paid a supplemental of $1,000 each to make sure everything's going well at the athletic contest. Now, having said that, if we do not have athletics, I will get $1,000 worth of work out of them as well, somehow, some way. See, I love the smile on people's faces when we say this. It's all good faith, guys, because I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but we're gonna go as if we're gonna have extracurriculars. I can't predict the future on that one.
It's $1,000 payment that we're thinking, or is it? No, it's all. Has been?
Yeah, they are.
That's a hard-earned $1,000.
Yeah, I gotta say, like I said, we'll work with it. It's just now you've seen it in print, and that's why I wanted you guys to see it like this. Figure out what we're doing.
we are at item 11, personnel items, and we're at the point of employment, extracurricular, extra duty, and we have superintendent recommendation. It's going through and chair would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept superintendent's recommendation on all 3, 6 things. We want all 6 at once? Oh, okay, that's what I said.
I'm sorry.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Brogan, second by Mr. McBride, that this board approve the superintendent recommendation for extracurricular, extra duty payments. We have Kathy Blevins at AD, and AD Director, Athletic Supervisor, one being 4,000, one being 1,000. We have Daniel Hudgens, 1,000, Principal. Kevin Green, Principal, 1,000. Susan Hudson, 1,000. Chris Vickers, 1,000. Motion on the floor, is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstaining, aye. That the minutes reflect the 5-0 vote in the affirmative, this board has approved the superintendent's recommendation for the 4 red principals and athletic directors for the amounts of 4,000, 1,000, and then 1,000 for each of the principals. The next item goes to the vote. Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Abstaining? Aye. Let the minutes reflect the 5-0 vote in the affirmative. The board has approved the extra duty recommendation of the superintendent board. Next block is resignation, retirement, professional. We have superintendent recommendations. Have one, Melissa Clay. We have another, Jason Massey, as head volleyball coach. Melissa Clay was teacher in area elementary. And we have Danita Richmond, Title I teacher in area elementary.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignations going through.
Mr. Brogan?
Yes.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Angel, second by Mr. Brogan, that this board approve the superintendent recommendation for the resignations of Melissa Clay, in area elementary, Jason Massey, head volleyball coach, and Danita Richards, Title I teacher in area elementary. Any discussion?
The only thing I'd like to add is I thank them for their service. I think that should be noted for people who want to work with the young people of our country, so I want to thank them for their service.
They were very excellent volleyball players.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Abstaining? Aye. Let the minutes reflect a 5-0 vote in the affirmative. This board has approved the superintendent recommendation for the 4 red resignations and retirements. That brings us to item 12, approving in and out county requests. Have none. Item 13, superintendent's report, COVID-19.
Okay, what I might say in the next 10 minutes could change in the next 10 minutes. We have worked, last week, my second day on the job, I tried to get stakeholders involved because going into school is going to be different than any other school year in history of America. And so what I was able to do was get service and professional union to represent the very first meeting just to get things started up to this week. And so what we did was we got those 2 people involved, plus we got some tech people involved in my central office. We all just said, let's try to come up with a meeting of next week to get more stakeholders. And then we brought in our principals, our nurses, our faculty senate, and some of my staff at the central office. And we came in this room and we had about 25 people or so. And what we did was we divided up into 5 groups after I did my overall saying that no idea is going to be a dumb idea, but I need input. And as I worked in this system for 22 years as an educator, I loved it when leaders asked input and they actually listened. That's what I'm doing. I'm listening to comments. When a leader says, I want your comments and does nothing, you lose respect and you also lose trust. I'm trying to gain trust we're working with our kids. Right now, we came up with a plan before we broke for lunch, and we were doing really well. I felt that we were doing well. And when we came back for lunch, we got a curveball from our governor. I understand his decision-making is not easy, and I still have to support him, even though it's causing stress in people's lives, because we're concerned now that the goalpost has been moved when we all agreed to the schedule to start our educators on the 10th of August, so they could be paid by the end of August. When you change this date, you now pushed it back to being paid. The first payment is now the middle of September. So what we are doing, before I talk about all that stuff that happened there, we agreed as a group that we need to meet again in 2 weeks, because that was the way the APL training was next week, so we had to bump it. But we're gonna bring all those stakeholders back, because since the governor made his stance, and the State Department and all the attorneys and all the union reps, there's gonna be a lot of this, a lot of talk. That doesn't mean it's true, so don't believe everything you hear. But I will say this much, we are going to, as our county, do what's best for Somers County kids and move forward. Having said that, tonight, this will no longer be embargoed from what I understand, and this is our opening guidance to our schools. It's a guidance document. Having said that, it could change. So at this point in time, we're now starting the day after Labor Day, and we have to end by June 1st. The problem we get into is 2510, when we educate our children, and you also have to look at 180 days. I'm looking at all my employees who need to start working because, well, that's what it was agreed upon. So there are some calendars that were sent to us, Superintendent, by 4 o'clock this evening as, here's some templates to maybe adjust the calendar, and here's what it looks like. But not one of those calendars helps me help the community in which I work in to get them that paycheck on the end of the month. So that is a huge barrier for people. Maybe not for some, but it's still, you have to treat it as if it hurts us all, which it does. And then the next part with the COVID response is, I said earlier, we are working on multiple facets to make sure we educate everybody in the county. And we will come out with more guidance on how we're going to open and make sure everything is taken care of with the social, emotional, and the academic. And we're going to, dovetail those two together. But I know we are working on our facilities. We're working on our Wi-Fi/technology. And then other is wherever the state/governor throws out, we're going to have to be reacting. We could be as proactive as we were. I was proud of our group I worked with. If that shows any indication, we'll be ready. That was a great sample group for me to see as a new guy coming in, to see that sample group coming together. Not one person complained, not one person threw out barriers. They just kept saying, well, what about this? And then we said, well, that's a good point. And then we had our board here. It was the board of ideas and how to open school the first 2 weeks with staggered, coming in staggered. We can still do the staggered approach. The staggered approach would be maybe 3 grade levels at a time. So on the first Tuesday, maybe we go with seniors, 8th grade, 5th grade. Because they're already older, it'll be easy for them to come in that first day. The little ones, I want to make sure we take real good care of as they come into their first day of school after COVID, masks, and all this negativity that they're hearing, either at home because the TV's on or the internet or just other, with making kids feel comfortable in our school system, whether it's brick and mortar, blended, or virtual. So we came up with the idea, I should say, I believe it was Amy that threw out the idea, Amy Smith, saying, what about the 2 weeks before the 2 weeks? I love that. Well, what about it? Well, then we started hammering out ideas. And it was just great to see people come together and throw out ideas to do what's best for kids. Not one person thought about what was best for them. They thought about what was best for the kids. I don't know about you guys, but that's exciting to hear a group of adults not looking at adults trying to get self-serving. They were looking at helping these children and these young adults out. So I got to say, it was pretty awesome until we went to lunch and came back with Twitter and social media saying, Governor made an announcement. So, guys, that's called opportunities. And I think our slogan this year is accept the challenges, period. And I think the group yesterday did that. And they got a curveball, and we're going to continue to work. And guys, this will be our greatest story ever that we can talk about. Remember back in 2020, what we did to make things happen. To me, that's the way we have to look at it and not play the victim game. We have to be there for the kids first. And I think that's what's outside the Board of Ed office, if I do remember. I got one person that thinks I'm right, I like that, thank you. That's my report basically on COVID-19 as of right now. And you have to kind of laugh at it after a while, because you're like, I take it serious, but man, when you get thrown all these different curveballs, you just feel like, wow, can I just get a foul ball? You know, and that's what we're working on right now. But we are kid-centered, and our group of people that were in here, I can honestly say it was awesome to see the interaction of people get together. And then our assistant principal over here, you brought the snacks. We appreciate that. And when you see people not at the snacks, but at the table dialoguing, you know that you're doing something well, because you don't get people's way until it looks 12 o'clock, you say, you all need to go to lunch. That's an awesome day, guys. That was an awesome day. So I don't have anything else unless you want to ask me any questions.
So, week after next, we will reconvene that group, and we will start hammering out, assuming there's no further changes in the government. We'll start hammering out how we're going to reopen school and all the formats.
Yeah, a week from this coming Wednesday, so not this Wednesday, the following.
And then, so then at the second meeting in July, then you would be prepared to disseminate information to us and the public.
I would love to say we are on target, as long as people don't
Change.
move the goalpost. It would really help us all in this state that goalpost don't get moved anymore. Because we can handle it, we really can. But we're gonna have to get through some serious stuff here, guys.
We are at item 14, discussion of next agenda. Anyone have any agenda item requests for the next meeting? And by the way, the next meeting is Thursday, July 23rd, is that correct? Thursday is July 23rd.
July 23rd, yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And do you like this format? Do you want to continue it here? Right now?
Mr. Ingram?
To try to help you out. If we see we're gonna have a bigger group of this, I think we need to go to the high school, probably the auditorium.
Yeah.
Don't think we will get to middle school.
We don't want to go to
I agree on you on that.
Mr. Brogan, Mr. McBride, thoughts on that, as far as, okay.
If you would like us, you want to be at the auditorium then?
It is something we think we're gonna have a large crowd.
Okay.
Is that a logistical problem for you?
Make it happen.
Is the air conditioning better there?
Yes, it's actually really cold in there. I'm
Well-
being serious, right?
All right, I'm going to take responsibility. I had him turn it off
Yeah,
so we could hear you. So the heat's my fault.
You want me to just put 6 p.m. there and just be done? You just want to do 6 p.m. there at the auditorium?
That's okay. man.
That'd be fine.
You gotta turn the sun on.
Try my brain. Okay. Any other thoughts on the agenda? Okay, Ms. Farley, you're on.
I move we adjourn. The time is now 7:33.
This meeting stands
Thank you,
adjourned.
ma'am.